Moving on from the tanning process, we then dye the hide. Dyeing is adding color throughout the skin. This is on the split as well as on the top grain. Once the dyeing process is complete, it moves on to what we call the finishing process. Now, the finishing process in general is application of layers to the surface of the leather. Now, based on what kind of leather depends on what kind of finishing system is used. 3 different kinds of leathers that you get from the pelts. There's a full grain leather. There's a corrected grain leather, which is basically a sanded leather. And the third option is what we call a split, which is the bottom half of the hide, which is split before the liming process. Once the hide is completed in the dyeing process, it moves into the finishing. Now, finishing, there's multiple steps that can be done depending on what the end article will look like. We have what we call staking, which is a machine with a whole lot of metal fingers where the hide passes through and it slams in between the fibers. It helps to make the hide larger, and it also helps to soften the grain structure. Once the staking has taken place, it can move on to either a roller coater finish or a spray coat finish. It goes on to the roller coater, which is basically similar to a printing press. It can do effect coats like sauvage or different sort of two-tones, subtle two-tones on the leather. Spraying can be done by 2 different kinds of spray machines. One is called a reciprocating machine, which has an arm which goes backwards and forwards across the hide as the hide passes underneath it. And then there's a conventional spraying where there's this arcing motion of the spray gun that encircles the hide as it passes through. Once it goes through the finishing, it ends up in a drying chamber, which is normally enclosed to prevent dust and contamination going on top of the hide. After you finish the first coat of spray, you can emboss the leather, which is adding a print to the leather or a grain, which helps to hide defects if you're using a lower grade material. Once that effect is finished, it moves on to either a color coat, second base coat, and a top coat. Top coat is applied by spray, which adds a feeling and protection to the leather as a finished article. Once this is done, it ends up in what we call a milling drum, where it goes through a tumbling process, which will make the leather go soft and give it a little bit of break on the natural side. Adding on to the ability to finish leather with machinery, there is the option with hand rubbing. Hand rubbing leather is the effect coat is applied by hand. Now, this is a skill that is created over years of effort and practice, but the leather is basically given a subtle two-tone effect by application by hand in different areas of the hide. This gives it a very transparent look and very unique, meaning no sofa is the same.